everyone can please take one step forward. We'll take a couple more on this side if you're able to.
So good morning. Today I'm joined by members of several Montana law enforcement agencies to provide an update on the current situation in Anaconda following the shooting last Friday. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the loss of 4 Montanans: 59-year-old Daniel Edwin Bailey, 64-year-old Nancy Loretta Kelly, 70-year-old David Allen Leach, and 74-year-old Tony Wayne Palm. Thank you. May God rest their souls and comfort their families at this difficult time. I've spoken with members of the victims' families and shared condolences on behalf of the people of Montana. Please keep them in your prayers. Moments ago, I received a briefing on the status of the ongoing investigation and the search for the suspect. With me here today are Attorney General Austin Knudsen, Montana Division of Criminal Investigation Administrator Lee Johnson, Montana Highway Patrol Major Justin Braun, General Mike Morini from the Montana National Guard, Anaconda Deer Lodge Police Chief Bill Sather, Anaconda Deer Lodge County Attorney Morgan Smith, U.S. Marshal Craig Anderson, and FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Richard Bauer. Thank you all for being here. According to the Montana Department of Justice, on Friday, August 1st, around 10:30, 45-year-old Michael Brown walked into the Owl Bar and opened fire, killing 4 people before fleeing the scene. At this time, Michael Braun continues to be at large. Since the tragic event, our Montana law enforcement officers have been unrelenting in their pursuit, working around the clock to bring this suspect, Michael Brown, to justice for his heinous acts. I recently received an update from the Montana National Guard on their assistance with the search. Since Friday, a helicopter from the Helena Battalion, as well as 4 soldiers, have flown over 19 hours as of Sunday to assist with the search and to provide transportation of law enforcement personnel into this remote area in the mountains. Working alongside these folks standing beside me, all partners will continue the pursuit of this criminal. Once found, I have no doubt that the Montana Department of Justice will prosecute this killer to the full extent of the law to bring justice to those grieving the loss of a loved one and solace to members of the Anaconda community. Rest assured, our brave men and women of law enforcement aren't giving up. And I ask you that you not give up on them either. Think of them in your prayers and support them and their families as you can. Yesterday I spoke with Police Chief Sather. Under Montana law, I'm able to release emergency funds to law enforcement if local agency requests it. This morning, I received that request from Anaconda Deer Lodge. And moments ago, I signed an executive order to support the efforts of local law enforcement. While the state has already been supporting this investigation with staff and aviation assets, this action today will ensure additional financial resources are available as we continue to track down this criminal. In particular, these additional financial resources from the State Emergencies Response Fund will help pay local law enforcement's overtime and to continue the search. At this time, I'd like to invite County Attorney Morgan Smith to share a few words on behalf of the Chief and the Anaconda community. Morgan.
Good afternoon. I'd like to first start out and talk to the families of Daniel, David, Nancy, and Tony. Our thoughts and prayers remain with you. My office will be reaching out to all of the victim families and want you to know that there are services and financial assistance that is available through the Victim Witness Advocate and through the Montana Crime Victim Compensation Fund, recognizing all that is on your plate right now as you experience this tragedy. If there is assistance that the victim advocate can provide or that my office can provide, we would love to do so. To the Anaconda community, if I can speak for both Chief Sather and myself, we understand the desire for more information. This manhunt has involved individuals from 38 local, state, and federal agencies, and coordination of hundreds from all of those agencies has been a very difficult task. They are responding to every call, to every tip, and they're tirelessly searching the area where the suspect is believed to be. I understand the pit in your stomach every time you've heard sirens in our community the last 5 days. I experienced the same. Any call that comes in of a potential sighting of Michael Paul Brown, or a suspicious person in an unexpected place, or a concern that you can't reach a loved one and you have concern that they have been harmed, every single one of those calls has been responded to. And every time those calls come in, they're treated as though they are going to be the call that results in the apprehension of Michael Paul Brown. The officer response to these calls has been immense. For those of you that have homes or have property in the Stumptown area, we hear your call for questions. We hear your concerns of access to your property and safety of your homes. The agencies that are working with Anaconda law enforcement are working to set up a process for communication with you so you'll have a clear understanding of your access to your home and to your property. When you're seeing lights and sirens pass your house, we're understanding that you want answers. However, we ask that you remain patient and know that the investigation is ongoing. There's information law enforcement cannot release to the public for potential of jeopardizing an ongoing investigation, and there's information that law enforcement cannot release for fear of creating additional safety risk to law enforcement officers or to the community at large. When the dust settles and our community is safe again, we will answer all of the questions that we are able to. In the meantime, we ask that you take information that you see on social media with a grain of salt. We ask that you refrain from sharing information that you do not know to be true. The specific facts that will later be necessary for the prosecution of this case are not necessarily relevant for the apprehension of Michael Paul Brown, nor do they ensure in keeping the public safe. The priority of all of the folks standing here before you is the apprehension of Michael Paul Brown. We ask that you be kind, we ask that you look out for your neighbors, and recognize that while state and federal agencies are here and they're working really hard, your local police force and your local dispatchers are working right alongside these agencies. They're also continuing to respond and patrol our community, respond to 911 calls, and remain involved in active ongoing investigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Now, Attorney General Austin Knudsen will share more information on the resources available for reporting a tip to assist in the arrest and capture of this suspect.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. I'm Attorney General Austin Knudsen. I want to first say thank you to the Governor. This release of assets and resources for law enforcement is going to allow us to keep this manhunt going. This is very labor intensive, very resource intensive. These tactical teams and the manpower out here, knowing the state of Montana has stepped up and is going to offset some of those costs is a huge continuance for us. So thank you, Mr. Governor. Also want to thank the law enforcement crowd that's here. What you're seeing behind me is tremendous. This is nothing short of remarkable for a law enforcement response in the state of Montana. This is what we do. Something bad happens and neighbors respond. We've got local agencies, we've got county sheriffs, local municipalities, but I also want to thank our federal partners. We've got the FBI here, we've got the U.S. Marshals Service. This allows us to keep more resources focused at catching this individual. With that, I want to announce that the U.S. Marshals Service has increased our reward for any information that will lead to the capture of Michael Paul Brown. The U.S. Marshals Service has now put up $10,000 for any tip that leads to his apprehension. The tip line, and this is important, 1-877-WANTED-2, the number 2, WANTED-2, and I'll give you the digits, 1-877-926-8332. Again, there's a $10,000 reward currently for any information that's going to lead to the apprehension of Michael Paul Brown. We want to get this guy rounded up. This is our top focus in the entire state of Montana, is making this community safe and getting this fugitive brought in one way or the other. So again, want to thank all our partners, thank my agencies, the state agencies, the county agencies, the city agencies, and our federal partners for being here. Thank you, Mr. Governor.
Yeah. Thank you, Attorney General. Once again, on behalf of the people of Montana, thank you to all the law enforcement officers and agencies dedicated to resolving this investigation and search, and to the families of those who lost loved ones. May God bless you and keep you. At this time, I'll open it up for questions. I ask that you please raise your hand and state your name and outlet. Yes.
John Riley, Montana Television Network. I've spoken with numerous residents over the last few days. The number one question from all of them: when was the last time Michael Brown was seen physically? Was it, within the last couple days, or was it since the incident?
Yep.
Yeah. I might ask DCI or one of our locals to come up and address this. Without stating too much, I mean, I think the last concrete time we can say for sure he was seen was Friday. Now, there is certainly evidence in our search area that he's present and that we're hunting in the right haystack. But at this time, to answer your question as specifically as I can, the last confirmed, absolutely sure sighting of Michael Paul Brown would have been Friday.
Yes.
Governor, Shaylee Rager, Montana Public Radio. I understand we've been talking about the Stumptown Road area. Can you be any more specific about where search efforts are concentrated right now? Is there, a parameter of search area? Where
Okay. I'm deferring all specific investigation stuff to the AG or DCI.
So Lee Johnson from DCI will answer.
Okay, good morning. So the question is essentially how large is the perimeter? How focused is it? We've gone everywhere from focused perimeter based on evidence that we're seeing in the area to a much larger area that is protective of the residents up there, and obviously to what is reasonable for where a human being could possibly be located or could move to. And so when we look at all of those options with resources available, the type of terrain, it's very challenging, so we have expanded our perimeters to look in different areas.
Do you have a rough square footage or acres? Or?
I can't provide that detail right now. That's operational, so I appreciate the question.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
So, has there been any evidence that he's broken into cabins or homes for food? Any such evidence?
Question is there any evidence or indication that our suspect has broken into any cabins or homes in the area? The quickest answer is no. We don't have any evidence that that's happened. Residents are obviously being cooperative. There's been sweeps. There's a number of cabins up there. They've all been swept and checked. Other assets up there, but the quick answer to your question is no.
Yes.
DJ Bauer, Nonstop Local. What does the federal government's involvement in this case look like going forward in terms of the search for Michael Brown?
Come on up. You can share the podium.
Yeah.
This is Richard Bear, FBI, along with our U.S. Marshals counterparts. We've been here since the onset of the investigation, and so we've provided significant resources tactically, investigatively, with our intelligence program. So we're here to see it through with our partners and stand side by side with them. Do everything we can in the federal government to help keep this community safe.
Is there still air support for the search?
That's correct.
And I just want to add, again, as a shout out to all of the members, federal, state, local, the cooperation between law enforcement agencies has really been spectacular. There's no friction, and they've been relentless in the pursuit of this suspect. Yes.
Josh Marvel with NBC Montana. Were there, obviously there were the 4 fatalities. Were any injuries reported during the initial incident or the pursuit thereafter?
Nothing specifically. I mean, look, it's rough terrain up there. We got a lot of personnel up there working. They're carrying a lot of gear, animals, equipment, packs. You got to be careful up there. So I think it's foreseeable that somebody might get themselves hurt. We're doing everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. But at this time, that's probably about as far as I'm going to go with that one.
And my second question is for local officials. How was the community notified of this active shooter situation?
So, to be honest, it was real time as it was occurring. There was basically communication to a number of locations, courthouse, hospital, things of that nature, indicating a belief that a lockdown was potentially necessary. And then, honestly, from there, what happened was a large law enforcement response. That communication was then largely handled through local media, as well as online presence, and then updates have been provided since that time when able through both the use of social media as well as notice media.
Yeah, John.
John Amy, MTN News. I was going to ask, when you mentioned real-time response, do we know, was this a standoff situation? And can you explain how maybe did he leave the bar, the suspect, prior to police arriving? What do we know as far as how he was able to kind of slip through, or was, as far as the...
Sure. Without sharing, because this is ongoing, there's a lot of information that we're not going to be in a position to disclose. Once Mr. Brown was leaving, I can tell you that the law enforcement response to realization that he was leaving was nearly immediate, and so there was no gap in time where he was located and then chased. Pursuit ensued, but outside of that, I wouldn't be able to provide any more specifics.
Yes.
John Riley, MTN News again. Are you operating under the belief that he is still armed?
We have to, John. We absolutely have to assume that he's armed and extremely dangerous. This is clearly an unstable individual. He's had access to firearms, numerous firearms in his home, and he used a firearm to commit a really heinous series of crimes. We don't have specific information, but look, he was able to escape and get up in the mountains. We are absolutely operating under the assumption that he is armed and extremely dangerous.
Is it just a follow-up question? The weapon that is believed to have been used in the murders, has that been recovered, or is that still missing? I'm
not going to comment on that because that is critical to an investigation, and we're not going to release that.
John Amy, MTN News. Did the suspect, I know you guys probably search his residence and stuff did he leave any kind of note or send any kind of message on social media or anywhere prior to the attack?
Also, that would be part of an investigative file. We're just not going to comment on that.
So, the Attorney General, I'm Duncan Adams of the Montana Stand. Attorney General told us Sunday that there would be a transition with law enforcement. And there's been a huge transition. It seems like a very small presence now. Why so small at this point?
Look, I think it's important to know that we're still taking this extremely seriously. This is still the #1 law enforcement effort in the state of Montana. But look, the fact is you have a lot of out of jurisdiction law enforcement professionals who are here. They've got home counties, they've got hometowns that they have to go in, and they have to enforce the law there too. We also run up against just resources and logistics. There's a lot of manpower, a lot of overtime being put in up here. That money has to come from somewhere, and it's not reasonable for us to expect, Petroleum County to come over here and put in the time that they have, and not have that time compensated. So those are the kind of things that we've been working through the weekend. I cannot thank the governor enough for the executive order that he signed today, freeing up emergency funds. That is absolutely huge and a game changer for us, because that allows us to keep this search going at a higher level. So I'm hesitant to say it's going to be a big transition. We're keeping all the assets, all the resources that have been here are going to keep being up there. We've got teams cycling in and out. They've got home territories they have to go home and take care of as well.
Okay, we'll take 2 more. Yes.
Jake Ellison for the New York Times. I noticed that Stumptown Road is open now. So can you just talk a little bit about why that road is open and what you expect people who use that road or who live there and have homes off of that road? How do you expect them to?
The county attorney Smith addressed that a little bit. There's a process being set up to allow residents to get back in. They have animals up there, they have personal belongings. they need to get back to their homes as long as their safety is not being compromised. That process is underway now to get that put in place. I don't know if you want to add anything.
That's basically what we know at this time.
Okay. Yes.
I understand that this is probably a number that changes, but I'm curious, like today, how many people are searching in this area? You know, how many personnel are searching? How many? Imagine there are dogs. How many dogs are up there right now?
I'm going to defer this probably to Lee with DCI. Look, I'm reluctant to put out there publicly how many canines we have up on the hill searching. We don't know if people are communicating with Mr. Brown. We have no reason to think so. But at this time, I'm reluctant to tell you exactly how many assets we have up there. We can probably give you a rough overall number of law enforcement presence at the time. But aside from that, that's as far as we're going to go. Lee, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So we scale our teams appropriately for what the mission is, and we have anywhere from 4-person teams to as many as 12, and that's just one team. So several teams depending on exactly what we're trying to accomplish. But I can tell you that we are inserting substantial resources that are scaled appropriately. I don't want to talk about strict numbers from which agencies, but I can tell you that we're maximizing the resources that are available.
And I would just add that was the whole point of this executive order, is to make sure the resources are available there so we can continue to pay overtime to make sure the law enforcement stays on the job until this individual is apprehended. We'll take one last question. Yes.
Family members of Michael Brown have reached out to us and said that he was denied help from the VA. Is this something that you people are able to confirm or deny?
Yeah, under federal law, we can't comment on an individual patient. And I don't know if there's additional information you can add about local things, but we're not at liberty to release that. So,
I think that's a question for the VA. We just don't have that information. We don't have access to it. Frankly, it's not cogent to our investigation at this point.